Hello, and welcome to Quality Time, the podcast made just for Nebraska's early childhood providers who are growing every day through Step Up to Quality. I'm your host, Laura Katie. Whether you're tuning in during snack time, cleanup, or your drive home, we're so glad you're here. Each episode, we highlight the real work happening in early childhood programs across Nebraska, because quality is something we build together. Today, we're talking about how early literacy and family engagement come to life in high-quality program and how Step Up to Quality helps support that work every step of the way. I am so excited to welcome today's guest, Diana Svela, School Director of the Early Learning Center at Gateway. Educare of Omaha, Inc. is part of a national network dedicated to early childhood education, partnering with underserved communities in North and South Omaha. The Educare Learning Network provides high-quality early learning experiences that transform the lives of young children. ELC Gateway is a program that blends research, practice, and heart, ensuring children and families are supported from day one with rich, responsive learning experiences. Diana leads an incredible team that is deeply committed to helping children thrive, and we are very thrilled to have her here today and also to learn from her today. All right, welcome to Quality Time, Diana. We are happy you're here. Can you please start? I just have to learn about you before we start any questions. So can you please just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Of course, thank you so much for having me here, Laura. I'm super excited to be able to share with everyone that is watching us, listening to us, who I am, what I do, and so much more about early childhood. Well, my long story short, I was born and raised in Mexico. I lived my entire life until I was 26 there in a little beach called Ciudad Madero, next to Tampico. Tampico is more known. And I lived my entire life there. I study early childhood. In 2018, I actually moved to Omaha, Nebraska, got married, got kids, started working here. So where I started to where I am has been a little bit of a crazy journey. Wow. But I would say from a very young age, I wanted to become a teacher. I had a teacher at home, which was my mom. She's a professor at a college in Mexico. And she was always that inspiration I look forward to be like. And just working with little kids, they will be the cutest things. And at the same time, I'm like, what do I need to do to work with them? So life just took me to a different path. Back in Mexico, I became a junior high teacher, teaching English. And for me, my heart was still in early childhood. So I didn't see that as a bump in my career, but more of just a trampoline for what's going to be next. So life brought me to the USA, and I became a substitute teacher for a few months. And then I applied for Educare of Omaha, Inc. And when I applied, I was able to be blessed with the position of a lead teacher position at Educare of Omaha, at Educare Indian Hill. And I was there for a year. It happens that COVID hit 3 months after I started. So wow. Fun. I was able to learn so much. I felt like I was talking to the computer and being this Dora talking to the screen and waiting for the answer of the children. But honestly, was just a challenge that I wouldn't change. I learned so much from my peers, the people around me, my director, my mentor, teacher, supervisors. And it was a year full of finding my why I was in early childhood and why I was in Educare. And for me, Educare was different. It was a Head Start program in preschool, having 17 children. And then it happened that after all of that year, I started building skills and I looked at, okay, what else? Like what else I can do to be of a greater impact into our community. And I applied for the mentor teacher supervisor position and I didn't get it. But another door opened, and it was a position at a school director at ELC Gateway. And here I am. I started as a very young administrator at 29 years old. Right now I'm 33. And I am here in the building. That's how my journey has been in educare, and I'm just looking forward to see what else can we do. I'm
Wow.
enjoying my position, but that's how I am here.
Okay. I love everything you just said. I love learning more about you. I think it's so important for our listeners as well to get to know our amazing guests, because so often we're in a position, sure, as whatever your current position is, but a lot of different things led you to this point. And so it sounds to me like you've been in the States for 6, 7 years and have made leaps, and that's amazing. I heard you say that you felt like Dora the Explorer, but it sounds like you're Diana the Explorer.
Next door. Yep.
um, that's a really funny image, though. Just I also taught during COVID, and that like waiting for the response, like "Hello, is any?"
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. It's wonderful just to get a sense of who you are. I can feel your passion. I can feel your why and all that passion that you bring to this work. Okay, so let's start. I think, are we ready? I always like to
Yeah.
do connection before the content, but now I think we're ready. Are you ready?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so Educare is known for its commitment to quality. So when you think about high quality early childcare, what does that mean to you and your team?
Well, I always feel like it depends who you ask, because we all can have like different perspectives. But when it comes to high quality, for me, it's anything that it's high standards. It's something that it's going above and beyond your comfort zone. It's making sure that you can do the best. Now, I wanna make sure people that is listening to us knows high quality is not perfection. There's going to be bumps on the road that are going to guide you in a different way, but it's that constant question of what else can we do to be better? And I don't think there's an end goal or a magical number where the kids need to be in the certain test or score. It's about that journey, making sure that we're fulfilling all of the needs. And I would say, knowing truly the mission of our company, our the core values that we have, empowerment, integrity, making sure that we are following that, respect, um, pouring in our teachers. For me, all of that is different different points that we need to be putting all together, to make sure that we arrive there. And now, the important thing about high quality at an Educare of Omaha Inc. center, either it's an Educare or an early learning center, it's making sure that we are all pulling to the same side, because we can go even farther, um, and and also maintaining that high quality, making sure that it's something that we try to achieve every day. And if we couldn't, because we're humans and sometimes life happens, try again next day. That for me is high quality.
Wow, can we just take a moment? High
And breathe.
quality is not perfection. High quality is not perfection. It's a journey. I love that so much. Um, Thank you. Okay, so Step Up to Quality is such a big part of Nebraska's early childhood landscape. And it'd be really wonderful to hear a little bit more about how being part of Step Up to Quality has positively impacted your program at ELC Gateway.
Sometimes I feel like being, all of us have different perspective of ourselves, and a lot of the time I feel like an outsider, someone coming from a different country, speaking my first language, it's Spanish, and coming and learning about all of these new programs. For me, it's like, whoa, like I have um, that sense of impression, like, oh, this is new. Like when a kid just finds out, like, oh, you stole their nose, it's here. So for me, it's sad, but with early childhood education in the USA, and finding out about all of these wonderful programs we have. So when I started, even as a lead teacher, I didn't really know too much about Step Out to Quality. I was doing my duties every day, and I still wanted to do that high quality, but I didn't know the all of the details behind. And we were already part of Step Up to Quality. So when I became an administrator and a gateway, I find out that we are a step 3, and I'm like, what does that mean? So then we get more information about you actually need to do the whole process again because you need to get re-rated. And I'm like, tell me more. So I have always been a lifelong learner. I always want to learn a little bit more, just to try to understand what I do, who I work with, and just trying to do better. So when I started learning about Step Up to Quality, I'm like, okay, this is a guide for the journey that so it's more like a manual of things that that you can follow to ensure that you have that high quality. And I would say that Step Up to Quality has been that bar that is setting those high standards for me, making sure that we can achieve that and follow them at the end of the day. So we were able to go through that journey. It took, I would say, a year and a half, close to 2 years, to re-rate our program, and we went from a step 3 to a step 5, which is the highest level on the step of. Now the goal is to make sure, and I have mentioned these to other people, to you, Laura, it's being a step 5 every day. Making sure that it's not only a one-time thing, and just trying to continue improving. So that, I would say, families look at us, they have always looked at us with a kind heart, but whenever they hear about you are rated in a higher level, there's a different impression. I can see other partners trying to reach out and say, like, what are you doing? We want to know more about that. So, like I said, it's not just a goal. Step Up to Quality have impact us in a positive way, because it's just a different, like everyone wants to do better. Everyone wants to do good. And I think that's a great start.
Well, I hear a real curious perspective. You're curious about learning, whether that's learning more about the Step Up to Quality, whether that's, obviously I would imagine you spoke English a bit before moving to the States, but your English is perfect. And so I imagine that's also part of it too. You're a curious person, and that is a really good quality when it comes to being a lifelong learner, being a leader, all of that. So step 5, your goal is to be step 5 every day, not just the day that you were assessed. So I'm writing that down. That's good. Okay. Well, so for our listeners, as you know, season 4 is all about literacy. And actually the first time that Deanna and I met was about, because of literacy, early literacy. So let's talk a little bit about literacy. So early language and literacy skills are so foundational to a child's development. I would love to hear more about how your team is intentionally building literacy into daily routines and interactions.
I think everything starts with lesson planning. We can be great teachers, know it all, but I think it's having that lesson plan that it's going to allow you to just follow that path. And I always try to compare lesson planning like a recipe. You can have that recipe of how it's done, how many teaspoons you put of flour, the recipe. But how much perfect is that dish whenever you do it to what you plan, and with the ingredients that you were planning to have. Now that the lesson plan also needs to come with a flexible mindset, because we're working with children. And since they are still working on their social and emotional skills, one day they might not want to cooperate, even if your lesson plan says that on Tuesday you were going to be singing The Wheels of the Bus. So you need to also adapt. But lesson planning allows you to be intentional. It allows you to know where you want to go. And I think it also allows the teaching staff to see what are the children interested in, what are they going to be working on, or what do I need to do as the adult to pour those skills on them. So I think that's where it starts. And then also having programs that are looking for data or assessments that are going to make us even better. So in order for us to talk about literacy, making sure that we're following, we get assessed by EATers, class observation. We have different other assessments from our partners from UNMC. So it's very important that when we have all of those components, we, of course, are going to be talking about literacy and how important it is. We also have our curriculum, which that's where we can see it in our lesson plan, making sure that we're talking about literacy, math, social, emotional, the arts, science, like all of these components that the performance standards already ask for. And that's how we start. But of course, we need to implement it. So I would say that that's how it would be the foundation of literacy for us.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and how do you approach literacy for children who are multilingual learners? So kiddos that are coming from homes where English might not be their primary language.
Well, eaters, it's one of the tools that we use, and they ask us to make sure that we label with pictures and also with the name of the item. So children are visual learners. So making sure that they can have that English and Spanish translation besides the picture that they're seeing of maybe where they put their toys, even like if you are labeling the sink, table, like everyday items. Now, someone could ask, but that is only the translation, and kids maybe haven't been able to read. Like, how are they going to know all of these? We are showing them these. There's an English and there's a Spanish, for example. Spanish is the language that we normally will be translating. And for us, I think we're lucky. We're in the South community of Omaha, and we have, I would say, 70% of our staff members are Hispanic.
Wow.
And then for us, it's very important to have teachers that are being able to relate to these families and children. So even we're not a bilingual program, you will hear a lot of Spanish in our building, and implementing activities, songs, even using books. So going above and beyond the just a translation in a label. Even like quotes that sometimes you will only say in Spanish, and just embracing the mother tongue from these families. So that's how I would say we will incorporate it and just make it a casual. Like it doesn't have to be like, no, you need to say it this way. It's just a conversation. And I would say, since I moved to Omaha, I have become an expert in Spanglish because I go back and forth. Sometimes there's a quote or a meme that I saw online that says we are bilingual because you say bye to some words in Spanish and some to English.
Yeah.
That you just find a different meaning in the other language. So just making sure we do it casual and we value the language of these families.
I am so impressed that you have 70% of your staff that is bilingual. Is that something that you got lucky with, or is that an intentional? I mean, are you actively looking for bilingual staff? Like you said, it's easier for families and children to relate to other people that are able to speak in both English and Spanish, and so that probably is really important. But I'm curious. That's not always easy to find bilingual staff. So I'm curious what your experience has been with that.
I think Educare of Omaha is trying to make sure that we are out there in the community and they know that anyone is welcome. Doesn't matter how they look, how they are, what language they speak. We want to make sure that our children can relate to any of our teachers. When I started in Indian Hill, I was actually the first Hispanic lead teacher. Normally, we have seen that teacher aides or associates were the ones that were speaking a different language. And normally, lead teachers will speak mostly English. So when I came to Gateway, I was able to see more lead teachers that were Hispanic. I think it was not purposely. I think it was more of a blessing. But also, I tried to give a reason behind we're part of the community. So if we're in the South community, we will have mainly Hispanic people applying for these jobs. What we are intentionally doing now, it's making sure that we're aware that there's people in North area of Omaha that speak Spanish or maybe a different language. or an African language that we need to adapt. So now we're being more intentional about that. So even that is not a requirement whenever we're hiring, is just an extra. And also having a spirit of what else can we do? And I see so many teachers trying to implement those words to connect to their students. So I would say it was a blessing in disguise.
That's great. I have been fortunate to spend some time at not just ELCs, but also Educare Indian Hill, you mentioned, but also ELC Skinner and Gateway. And something I always notice is such strong family engagement. And so I'm curious, do you have any tips or tricks for that? Because I feel like strong family engagement goes hand in hand. It can go hand in hand with strong literacy outcomes. What are some of the ways that you support families in continuing early learning at home?
Well, I would say we have always had family engagement and community specialists that have been working with the families already, because the Educare Learning Network, that's what they want to achieve. And I would say Educare of Omaha Inc. As a whole, across our 5 schools, is a holistic program. Like, we are not only thinking about education and that's it. We're going above and beyond. When we have a child enrolled in our program, we want to make sure we're enrolling the entire family. And this is about supporting the families that maybe are teenager parents, maybe they are in foster care, maybe they are low income. They need to work, but they don't have who can take care of their children. That's why we're here. We want to give the best start for them. And in order for us to do that with the child, we need to be realistic of what the family is going through, and then just being mindful of what else can we do to support them. And in such a young age, because sometimes by kindergarten, it's been 5 years where this family didn't get resources. So when it comes to family engagement, it's going above and beyond, creating that bridge between the school and the family. So whenever people talk about being a team player, this is how I imagine everything. It's not only the child, it's not only the teachers, it's everyone: child, teacher, parents, and what else. So we also have the nutrition component. We also look into the health component, social, emotional, physical activity. And those are things that we want to ensure that we can be there for the families. Instead of being a burden, how can we be in support of you? And of course, that also means setting high standards for the family as well. So if we're going to have home visits, if we're going to have different events for the family, we want them to also to participate, because we have so many amazing things. But of course, we need that family to be engaged with us as well. And someone that is actively working, because we want to give the best start for them in their life.
Yeah, and being intentional and thinking about what are activities that are interesting and connected to what they're interested in. So have you found any certain literacy-based events or take-home activities or anything to be especially effective in engaging your families?
Yeah, I don't want to lie about how long this has been running, but at least since I started in 2020, I know it have happened. So it might be even before me. And there's a program that internally was created, was Read and Play, and where parents will receive a book, but every year has been more and more intentional. So I can see how maybe even the years that I wasn't here, it was intentional as creating an activity that the kids and parents can do together. But what we really didn't want it to happen was an activity that is just to take home and we don't even know if they did it or not. So every year we have been perfectioning this program, and it's about a book is involved. We make sure that there's an activity related to it, and we show it to the parent on site how to do it, how to interact with the children. And normally, since we are a data-driven program, then we can see some of those results in the literacy scores that we get. We are still have a lot of road and work to do. But I would say that's one of the biggest programs that we have. And we also don't do it every like year round. We do it every, I would say, I think it's 9 months of the year, just to make sure that we're kind of like already working on engagement with the families. So whenever we bring these literacy opportunities, they're more open for it. And of course, family activities that will involve, if not art or other area, literacy is one of our most important ones for sure.
I love that. And I've been in an educator during that time. And usually it's when parents are either dropping off or picking up. So you're really intentional about when, so that you have more engagement and that it's not an add-on. It's just, oh, hey, you're here. So let's talk about this book. So that, is that generally what's most effective is to have that at drop off or pick up?
Yeah, that because we also know that we have working parents or they need to be somewhere else. And sometimes trying to find that time in the middle of the day, it's even harder. Yeah. So we want to make it easy, practical for them to make sure that we take the barrier off so we can continue supporting them.
Oh, very good. Okay. Well, I want to get my senses going. Okay. So let's think. Can you share an example of a literacy rich environment at Educare? I want to think about what might our listeners or a visitor see or hear when they walk into one of your rooms?
Well, I would answer that in two, like a two-part answer. The first one would be whenever, like what kind of opportunities we could have with literacy. I would say a couple of years we started with having visitors from the community. It could be someone that it's a representative of somewhere, and just having them on site, making sure that they know what we are doing. And the way that they come and support us, they will come and read a book in our classrooms. And the children and the families love that. It also just put us out there so more people can know about us. So reading out loud for the children is very important. And then when it comes to what to expect in a classroom, I would say when a visitor comes into our rooms, they will see children teachers in the floor playing with the kids, lots of talking. Because sometimes we only relate literacy with the books and that's it. Literacy goes above and beyond. Books is a very important thing. But when it comes to those beginnings of the literacy, it's about words on the wall, constant talking, the tone, intonation is that we're using, and just the rhythm that we're talking and going high and low, and just that. We are teaching the children how to read, how to have a pace, because we don't read, hello, my name is Diana. Like we have all of that tone, and that's how much is important to be talking to the kids and not just being a broadcaster and just talking. It's more about being intentional, pointing things, allowing the children to interact with tools that are going to help them with their fine motor skills and large motor skills. So eventually they can sit down, read a book, stay quiet. But there's so much involved in literacy. So that's what a visitor will see in our room. I would say you will see the foundations of literacy in our classrooms.
And a lot of joy. I've never, ever been into a classroom in ELC or Educare without lots of joy and smiling and laughing, and also literacy rich environment, labels on the walls, books everywhere. So you have a lot of great things going. All right. We're close to the end. So what are some of your most effective strategies for building meaningful two-way partnerships with families?
I would say being an open door school. And I think everything needs to be based on respect and also trying to be understanding of where families can come from. We serve underserved families that sometimes the system haven't been great to them. So I think when we're humble in our heart, knowing that these are families that really need us, that's where we can start. That is the foundation, because you need to build a relationship around trust. And if a family doesn't trust us, it's going to be pretty hard to move forward.
Right.
One of the activities that we love to do is engagement every month with them. We will do an activity, and teachers will design them. Sometimes it will be different. In each school, look a little different. For Gateway, a classroom is assigned every month to create an activity for the entire building. And we will share what is this activity, how are they going to do it. And we want it to be more than crafting. We want it to be something intentional that can allow the parents to be kids again and play with their kid and interact. So whenever we have those families coming on site, that's the way that we can build stronger relationships. And I would also add, having a constant communication with them is very important for us. So having the home visit at the beginning of the year and then in the middle of the year, and then having also conferences where we can tell them the results of the curriculum that we do, My Teaching Strategies Gold. It also gives you some checkpoints, so we will be able to tell them where is their child, what need to work on, set up goals. And I think that allows us to have a more engaged family. And also, like I said, just reassuring to the parents that we're here for them, for their kids, and making sure they have the best tools in this path. So I would say that that is the way. And just to finalize that point would be being, as a school, as a center, being open to not hear all of the time whatever we want to hear. Sometimes the feedback would be growth for us as well. And we actually conduct with our partners from UNMC surveys twice a year to get the input from parents. What can we do better? How can we support you? And all of that. So I think that's very important too.
Ooh, so many good things. Okay, so we're wrapping up, and I want to do my best to summarize what I'm hearing. So what you just said, the building trust and relationships is above everything else. Step 5 is every day. We aim to be step 5 every day. This is a journey. Holistic, thinking holistically. The importance of staying curious. And I think my favorite is high quality is not perfection. It's a journey. But is there anything else that you think is important for our listeners to hear today? Anything else with your experience with Step Up to Literacy? I'm merging worlds here. Step Up to Quality, literacy, family engagement. Anything else that we missed, Diana?
I would say it's very important. Sometimes we just hear early childhood educators talking about this so much, but it's going to be me repeating it again. Early childhood is so important. The first 5 years of a life of a child, starting from when they're in their belly. It's so important to give, to put our eyes into and invest in our early childhood. And I'm talking about investing money because we do need to get better salaries for our teachers. We need to make sure that the centers have the materials that they need. And why investing in early childhood? That is the future of our society. And at the first 5 years of life of a child, there's a lot of changes. A kid can be one today and another one in 3 days because their brain is doing all of these synapses and they are connecting all of those, like doing those connections in their brain, and they're just learning. They're like little sponges. So it is so important that we invest in early childhood in the workforce and in these families so they can have the best start. And kindergarten is not too late. In the social emotional part as well, knowing that these skills build up in a very young age. How many adults and being trauma informed, how many adults still don't have these skills because maybe they didn't have the right beginning of their years and they didn't have the support. So I would say early childhood educators are the superheroes of education. And of course, not to make the work of the rest of the educators less. It is very important, their jobs and duties, but it's so much easier when you invest in that beginning of the life of a human being.
That's a great way to end. But I'm not done yet. I always have to ask, what is your favorite? Do you have a favorite children's book or a special read aloud moment that stands out in your memory?
So yeah, it's actually in Spanish would be Un caso grave de rayas, which is a bad case of stripes. I happen to remember that book in a book fair, like the first book fair that it's in my brain, like it just got stuck in there. And I remember my mom gave me some money and said, you can get a book today. And that was such a colorful book. And I'm like, oh, I want this. And I remember it was from Scholastic or something like that. So it was in Spanish. And to this day, I'm reading it to my kids. So why was so important this book for me? Because I think from a young age, and also maybe the life that I was having at that time when I got that book, it's a lot about a society. We care a lot about what people could say, and sometimes we hide who we are, just to be part of the society. But how beautiful would be if we just accept ourselves how we are, and we can embrace our differences, and just knowing that that is part of being a society. So I think as I continue growing, I realize it is very important that we take our beings, as the book says. Doesn't matter what other people will say. If you are not hurting anyone, just be your true self, because sometimes that's already a blessing. So that is a book that I love, and it's very colorful, and that's a book that I always keep close to my heart as a reminder of keeping yourself as your true self.
Well, we're ending with goosebumps. So
thank you.
Being your authentic self. Oh, I love it so much. Deanna, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, sharing your insight, your experience, your heart. It's so clear that ELC Gateway is a place where quality, family partnership, and a love of learning come together every day. We're just so grateful to learn from the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Laura. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias a ti. To our listeners, thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Quality Time. We hope today's episode sparked some new ideas, lifted your spirits, and reminded you of the powerful impact you're making in children's lives, especially when it comes to building strong foundations through literacy and connection. Be sure to join us next time as we continue celebrating Nebraska's amazing early childhood professionals who are stepping up to quality every day. Until then, bye-bye.